other summons.
Yeah.
Is that the way it is? Let's say he doesn't show up, then you give him another.
Well, so earlier we had, we were still going to see, there was like 3 times you got to show up: Monday, Wednesday, Monday, Thursday, then the following Monday. If you don't show up, then on Tuesday they write it. That's what we said before. Right now, it seems to say you summon him once to base it, and he doesn't show up, then you begin writing it because he didn't show up. And number of Chisa, let's see about your question. Let's see.
Yeah.
So Koivim is man, Sheni v'Chamishi v'Sheni, Zimna, v'Zimna, Basa Zimna. No, so we give him 3 times. Come on Monday, just come on Thursday, come on Monday. If he doesn't do it, the next day they go ahead and subpoena, right? So the next day they go ahead and they write it up. And Ravasi, Rav Kahana, Chazi Hayisa Dasmi Ladina, one time we saw the woman, they went ahead and they summoned her in the morning. With Panay, with Safra, right? And in the evening they summoned her, right? You had to come with Safra, Ksiva Lapsika, and she didn't show up, and therefore the next morning they already began writing. You give him a little time, you miss one date, okay, made a dentist appointment. That's talking about a man. Sometimes he has to travel for work. He's busy. But a woman who's in the town came to the east of Amasa, since she's always in town. And then she didn't come to Din. Therefore, she's considered to be Moredes, rebelling against the Din, and therefore they begin. That's the reason why Rav Chisa began writing it.
So that's even after.
Right away.
Right away.
Right. And also we don't go ahead and summon people during Nisan, right? The holiday preparations, Tishrei, also during Tishrei, because they're busy with Yantif, not Erev Yantif, Shabbos, and also Erev Shabbos. Nisan, but you can go ahead and summon them during Nisan for an appearance after Nisan, or Tishrei, or after Tishrei. Kavina, and then we do go ahead and say, hey, come to court then. And however, but let's say on Friday to go ahead and summon them, let's say for an appointment next week, like Kavina, we don't even summon them on Erev Shabbos, my time, because the person's probably busy with Shabbos preparations, and therefore might not even remember being summoned. And we don't go ahead and summon people and the Yarchei Kala when they have the big shear, either the weekly shear or the big shear when everyone comes together to hear the Rosh Hashiva or the Rigla, let's say 30 days before the Yantif. Why everyone shows up there? Because what are they going to know? They say, oh, this is where the Cook County Sheriff is sitting. He knows that everyone's going to be there. Everyone's going to get served papers. So what's going to happen? People who are might be scared to be served, they're not going to show up. So therefore, we don't want people not to show up to the shear. Therefore, you can't be summoned in shear. And you have the also the coming to Rav Nachman one time. So like the people want to go ahead and serve somebody who's going to the shear. So they came to Rav Nachman to give the shear. Right? He says, what do you want to eat? And I was because I'm having a shear for you in order for you to serve somebody. I'm not going ahead and serving for you. However, but now, right, that the people are people who are avoiding getting served, right? They might just show up knowing they're not going to get served. So therefore, we serve or we don't serve even in the shear. And that we said in the Mishnah, the father stole something, and and let's say it was land, so they have to return it because people see the land themselves as the father's. So Master the Rabbi Shimon Berei, Rabbi Shimon his son, like the Mamish, doesn't even have to be land that must be obligated to return. Ella filu part of even a cow that's used or an ox, right, that's used to plow, or a dog that's used to ride. So you have to go ahead and return it because the covenant of the father. So not only land, but even these larger items. So what about mito, what about like a big couch, right? So it's not a big public thing or a kitchen table, right? It's not a big public thing. It's not sitting outside of the Shizarabim like a plow, but it's something that people definitely recognize. So is that something when people walk into your house and say, oh, that was what the father stole? Or do we say that people won't really recognize it? It's really private. Then the Chacham, in other words, so he said over here that that he should become wiser. It was the Kapar V'Chamar came. So he says just like over there you're wise that people see it. So too, these items are similar to a donkey and a power. Fine. Now Mishnah. Mishnah says, Kufi Gimel, middle of the wide lines. Ein poitin loy mitevas hamuchzin v'loy mikis shel gaboy. So one cannot go ahead and basically get change from the tax collectors, right? It's going to be assumed, as we're going to soon see, that the money that they sort of have in their pushka and their tax collecting is a little bit strong-armed. And also from the Gabayim, also those the local collectors, that they don't necessarily collect what they're supposed to, and therefore some of the money might be considered to be stolen, right? And therefore one should not go ahead and use that money.
What are we not doing?
We're not getting change from the tax collectors, because the money that they have, right, is dirty money, as we'll soon see in the Gemara.
From the tax collector.
Right, because the tax collector might not be, doing what he's supposed to be doing. He might be a little bit, taking some extra. So,
Sorry.
yeah, they're going to change, yeah.
Okay.
So aval noitel whom you based on shuk, but there's it's the box that's considered. But once the money's in their house, if you have the local guy from his house, that money is okay. But the dirty money is the money that's the one that's in the box in the pushka.
Okay.
So Tana Zak the Gemara.
Why is the guy having to get changed?
Well, he wants to break. He wants to
break a
right. Yeah, right. Lahachlif salai beprutos. Right, that's what Rashi says. Right. So Zak the Gemara Satana aval naisin dinar. But let's say you have to give him a dinar. But naisin lo as a shar. He gives him a dinar. He give him the rest. So in other words, that even though that he's getting change from him, but since it would have been a full loss and he had to go ahead and give a dinar, we allow in that situation to get change. Umuchzin, from the tax collector, I have a marshmal dinar machuz dinar. Well, what it means, if you have to pay taxes, you got to pay taxes, right? Some Rav Chanina, Barkan, Amr Shmuel. So we're going to see this teretz 3 times. But and I was talking about a guy who there is no end to this tax. They're always going to tax you further and further. It's your Democrats, right? So the Rabbi Yana says, or it's some tax collector who's not really acting on behalf of the king. He's acting more on his own, and he's he's taking money from everybody. And he can ask. And some say this of Dina Mechuzadina. This opinion was actually said on something else. It was actually on this. So they used to have that a person they were put there from paying taxes on personal items, but they had to go ahead and pay for wares, right? Stuff that you would sell, right? Commerce. So what would people do? Oh, the guy sells shmatas. I have an idea. I'm going to put on 10 shmatas. I'm going to wear them all and say, well, these are my clothes, right? These are my clothes. I don't have to pay tax on it. These are for personal use, right? So let's say there's kilayim in there. Right. But it's opposite. So for personal use, you don't have to pay. So the guy would go ahead and put on, this is all personal use. But let's say there was shmatas in there, right? So there's kilayim in there. So do we say, so he said over here, a person cannot go ahead and do it, even if it's to avoid the tax. You can't go ahead and wear kilayim, even though you're not intending to get benefits. Because kilayim is not you intend to get benefit. But even if you don't get any benefit and you're just doing it to avoid the tax,
which is a benefit.
Well, let's see. Yeah, therefore you can't do it. So the word says, "Masin and the like Rabbi Kiva." It's not like Rabbi Kiva. The Tanya. One is forbidden to go ahead and avoid paying the tax. You can't go ahead and do these tricks in order, not to pay the tax on your wares. One is allowed to go ahead and do these tricks to avoid paying the taxes. Let's see. So if you say it's a machlekes of kilayim, and there is whether you're allowed to go ahead and put on these 10 layers, and there's shanas in their wool and linen, the marsavar davar shem is kaven mutter, the marsavar davar shem is kaven aser. The one says, okay, I'm not intending to get any sort of warmth or benefit from the kilayim, so therefore, since I'm not intending, it's mutter. Now this is utter. How can one go ahead and Kufya Gimel, how could one go ahead and intentionally try and avoid paying the taxes on his wares and put them on and say, hey, this is my personal use? Bishari. It is the din. If they want to have a sales tax or a consumer tax or middleman tax, whatever it is, so din mechus. So Rechanina, Barkana, Mishmol, no, we're talking about Meichesh and Lokitza, right? This is a never-ending taxes, so therefore you're allowed to go ahead and do this little trick. And the Rabbi Yana, we're talking about Meichesh that the guy is doing it on his own.
So there were two statements, though, of
Yeah.
Rabbi Akiva, one that said Asar L'Afriach, the one that said Mutter.
No, he always said, where? No, we're saying it was not like Rabbi Kiva, because Rabbi Kiva says mutter. Right? The first statement we said was Deloik Rabbi Akiva. Not like Rabbi Kiva, because Rabbi Kiva holds that it's mutter to do, it's mutter to go ahead and where the shan is without getting hana. So then you want to say, well, how could he even forget the shana's issue, you got the theft issue. You're avoiding paying taxes. So he said, no, we're talking about the unscrupulous tax collector. The rest of the Ella, so we say, so Ella, so you say, we're talking about one with never ending, and the guy's doing it on his own. In this case, a guy goes over here and says, give me your money. And the guy says, you know what, Nigel, when he can make another, I'll give this money of she shall truma, she shall base melech. A guy goes ahead, he's a stick up. Right, hey, I'm going to murder you. Give me your money. He says, "Hey, I'll give you money because it's truma." Oh, it's truma. I can't touch it. Right, so you're allowed to go ahead. Or this is the king's money. You want to steal the king's money? Take it all you want. The guys go. Oh. So you're allowed to make a false nether in order to.
That's statement or nether?
It says nidrit.
Nidrit.
Lahargin, Lacharmim, or the Mercs and all these, these mafia guys, these strong arms, in order to shahid, there was Truma, there was base melech, Afal Pi Shenishal Truma, even though it's not Truma, or Afal Pi Shenishal Melech, right? These are Yeri Shemayim, right? So the Gemara says, to tax collectors, you can make this nether, they're included in I, B'Marshmot, the Nufuzadina. So Rechanina, Barkana, Amarshmot, and then he says, but Marcus Shenel are talking about a tax collector that there is no end. And the Bay Rabbi Yana, Amar b'Meiches Omi Me'ela, one who's going on his own. And Rav Ashi says a third statement, Amar b'Meiches Kanani. We're talking about a Meiches of the Kanani, right? Of the Akum of the Kachavim. The tiny learner price. So you saw the Kanani on us. So let's say Yisrael and Kanani came. They went ahead and they had a court case. Shabbat the din, and they came to the Jewish courts. If you can go ahead and be Zaycha the Dina Yisrael. Zaku, you could say, okay, we fight in favor of the Jew, and for this is why I acquire our laws. The Amar Lon, he says, this is how the law is in our courts. And Padina Kananim, and let's say in their laws, he would be Chayat to pay. So Zaku, Samarlo, this is how your laws read. According to you guys, you didn't Kanani, you owe them the money, so pay them the money. But if not, you can't really find it either way. So by love, you can go ahead and sort of maybe trick or do something in order to sort of bend the law to find in favor of the Jew versus the Kanani. No, we don't go ahead and we don't start doing these tricks because of Kiddush Hashem in order to avoid, or the opposite, in order to avoid a Kiddush Chilul Hashem. And what is this, Rabbi Kiva? So it points out. So Rabbi Kiva, Tamdi, Kiddush Hashem. Sounds like Rabbi Kiva says only because of the Kaddish Shem Shemayim, we don't go ahead and do a trickery in order to find in favor of the Israel versus the Kanani. Like a Kiddush Hashem. But if it wasn't for this halacha, but Gezel Kanani, Mishari, you can go ahead and just steal the money, even though the money really should find in favor of the Kanani. You're going to bend the rules and go like this in order for the Israel. Aren't you stealing from the Kanani? Is that mutter? But Tani, then Rabbi Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Kiva, Rabbi Kiva Darshan, Kshabah, Mizfirin, because we came from Zephirin. Minayin, he said the Gezel Kanani Shu Asr. How do we know that one cannot go ahead and steal from a Kanani? Therefore it says it says it there by a person who basically owes money to even to a Kanani, and he sells himself. So there's an obligation to go ahead and purchase and redeem him from the owner, from the Akum, from the Kanani. So what do you see from that? Right, TLO. So turn the page. Right. So Shaloi Shecheno Yatza. Right. Gula TLO. Shaloi Shecheno Yatza. Now you shouldn't go ahead and just pull him away. You can't. You have to. It says you got to negotiate with the owner. Mashma. You have to negotiate. Then you can't just steal him. And okay, we'll steal him back. And Yachal Yiglam Alav. Maybe you can go ahead and say you got to pay whatever it is. No, it has to be a fair market. You don't go ahead and you're not obligated to go ahead and rip yourself off. You got to go ahead and redeem them, but for the fair market value. And I'm Rav Yais. So what do we see over here? That's Aser Gezel. So aren't your courts going ahead and being Gezel, right? So if you use these tricks, Rav Yais like Kasha, Hub the Kanani, Hub Gir Taisha. One is a Kanani who's Ivig of a Chavim. The other one is a Gir Taisha who's Makabel. You know they don't go ahead and do of the Chavim. So I'm really if you look in the pasuk over there, the pasuk by redeeming your fellow Jew from who sold himself because of out of poverty. Is referencing not only Kanani, but even Ger Taisha, right? Because the pasuk says he will sell lecha, so lo lecha, not only to you, el legir. We dash from the pasuk even to a ger. Shenemar legir. It says to the ger. Lo legir. It said like not only just the ger said like a real convert, el legir Taisha. Even one who's just makabel not to do it.
Right.
Shenemar legir Taisha. It says ger Taisha, and then it says mishpachas ger. He said that avik chavim. That's referring to avik chavim. And shua mer ol leikir. That's the one who sold to the actual item itself. So you see over here, they're all included, and you can't steal from. You can't even steal not only from a ger tosha, but you can't even steal from a chavim who worships. No. One is theft. You can't go ahead and actually be involved in stealing. We can't do that. But to basically, if there was a loan that, let's say, from a Kanani to a Jew, right? The Jew owed the Kanani, then there is ways to go ahead and you can cancel the loan as like indirect taking money from the Kanani. It's not actively taking money from the Kanani. You didn't take the money. It's just you're not having him be repaid. So therefore, that's a different level. So in other words, if we're in the courts, when he's being sued, you get, and even though, right? So even though you have to pay, so nevertheless, right? So this over here.
Being sued.
No, when the Yisrael is. So now as Yisrael, you owe money to the Kanani. So if it was like a loan, so then Beis Din would be allowed with a Kanani and some an actual Avik Chavim Kanani to go ahead and basically what's it called? Get their way out of the Hava. FYI, there's a lot of footnotes here. I'm sure. So this is right. So this is in terms of when this applies and when this doesn't apply, and also Bedine. But we also had this, if it wasn't for Chil Hashem, then you could do this. That was the whole thing we had before also. Yeah. So I'm really Abaye. So I say, well, Eved Ibri, I understand. But so if the guy was as an Eved, right? So he's an Eved to the guy and you have to go to negotiate, right? So why is he an Eved? He's an Eved because he owed him money. He owed him $5,000 and he didn't have money to pay him back. So he had to work it off, right? So he became an Eved Ivri. So really his being an Eved Ivri is a loan, right? He's repaying the loan with his work. So if I steal back the Eved, basically I'm just defaulting on the loan. So your whole thing is you're allowed to go ahead and prevent the loan. So why can't I take the Eved Ivri back? Why is the pasuk telling me that I can't take him back? That's removing al halva. In other words, the guy working there is paying him back $10 a day, whatever his value is, right? So Rav Latami Dama Rav Eved Ivri Gufa Kana. He says no. Eved Ivri is not just a halva. This is how he's paying back the halva. His gufa is kanila. Therefore, if you take him back, it's not a question of hafkas mamon. Rather, that's called gezel, and therefore that's why you have to negotiate, and you can't just go ahead and take him. So Amarav Bibi Bagida Amarav Shimon Chasida Gezel Kanani Aser. So you're not allowed to go ahead and take Gezel Kanani. It is Aser. However, Avedasa Muteris. But if you find his Aveda, there is no obligation to go ahead and return. It's like Zelu Aser. What do you know this from? Is Aser Demarav? Gezel Kanani Shu Aser. Shnei Hasis Vechal. You should go ahead and go get some Eskolami Masher Hashem Lokachem Leisein Lacha. In other words, you can go ahead. You're in war. You can go ahead and take whatever you want. So only Bisman Shem Asur Biyadecha. The only time during war, when they're given over to you. However, but if it's not during time of war, then you can't just go ahead and take what you want. However, Aveda, you finally don't have to return it. Why? How do you know that the Aveda of a Kanani is mutter to keep, not the return? Shana Pasuk says, it says all the lost objects of your achicha. Says only to your brother you have to return. You don't have to go ahead and return to a Kanani. So the Gemara says, maybe that's only if you didn't pick up the item already. You have to return it basra after the person. But maybe after it came into your hand, the hadra. Maybe I have to go ahead and return it. And you find it. That's what the pasuk says. It sounds like, and you find it, i.e., it's in your hand. Only then it's la'achicha, to your brethren, and not to somebody else. So tiny little advice becomes a binyai right. But the place was a chil Hashem. Afilu evedasai aser. Even their aved that us to go ahead and keep, you should go ahead and return it. And Amar Shmuel. So, however, when it comes to a toast, they make a mistake. Toast akum, then muteris. That is mutter to keep. Kiha the Shmuel Zabin Mikusi Lekadadav. He was buying a bowl from Mikusi and B'mar the Berliza Badal Zuze. So he's buying over there, and it was like it was supposed to be like copper covered or gold on the outside. It was
if the guy gave you a little bit more money, then you don't have to, according to this, you
Tosaka.
have to
Correct. Tosaka.
So, but it's not just what we said before. It's a stealing in a way.
That's not stealing.
Well, because before
They
we just said
over there you took it. Over there you took it.
no. The guy gave you extra. I
Yes.
thought, right?
I gave.
Before he took.
I go ahead. I go to Jewel, right, and I get, let's say Jewel's owned by a guy, right? Let's just right. So I go ahead and I pay. I give him $20, right? I give him $20, and they gave me change for a $50 bill. So I get an extra $30 in there.
30 extra.
So right. So I have 30 extra. So that's Tosaka. Right, one does not have to the hachder, but we said right. So he said, so tough nuggies. Let's see. So what happened? So by Shmuel, right. So he was going ahead and he was buying like a gold bowl. The other had zuzah, and it was for a zuz or Zavid. Excuse me. The dollars is supposed to be for 4 zuz. And he threw it in. No, he changed the price by a zuz. So he gave an extra zuz in order that basically. He'll say that the guy came back and said, "Hey, right, that wasn't just gold plated; it was fully gold." You'll say, "Oh, well, he made a mistake. He wasn't trying to trick me because he paid the wrong price." So he was like, so therefore that was why he did. But you see, he potentially able to keep it. And Rav Kana Zavin Mikuse may have asked him. So you go ahead and you would buy 120 bushels, chavisa b'mea with 100. And you also throw in an extra one. In other words, even though it was like 120, but it was priced at 100 because the guy counting made a mistake. So he gave him money. Said, okay, 20. This is it. I'm not. So Chazi. So he's a you see, by FYI that I'm, whatever you tell me how much to pay, I'm trusting you. If you say it's 100, it's 100, even though you knew it was 120. Ravina Zavadikla, who v'kusi slachas Ravina, he was buying like some wood with a kusi. So Amalei the Shamish, he told the Shamish, he said, "Kadim v'aisim ikaro the kusi minyana the other." It says, do ourselves a favor, go get the better wood from the bottom of the trunk, because the kusi, they just care like numbers, like that's all they care about, numbers. But let's go ahead and try and get the better quality wood. Rav Asher because of the shisha the gufa b'paradisa utleba kitay tenivi. So you saw there was an orchard with like that were there were gefanim, there were grapes, basically coming over, sort of open. So Amalei the Shami told the Shamash, Zil Chazi, go ahead and check. The kusi ninu, I see if they belong to a kusi. Let's go ahead and bring some of those grapes. Feed Yisrael, but if it's Yisrael ninu, then loy icy. Then don't take them off the vines and give it to him. So what's going on here? So Shama kusi, like certain kusi who. The Havi Yasi Paradisa, he was sitting there in the paradise. Amarle, the Kusi Shari, what's mutter to go ahead and steal from a Kusi? I understand. So Amarle, no. Kusi Shagal to me, Solo Shagal to me. If it was owned by a Jew and I would have taken some grapes, and afterwards says, "Oh, thank you for your grapes, here's the money," the Jew wouldn't have taken my money from me. He would have said, "Keep it." But I don't want any favors. I know the Kusi would take my money. So therefore, that's a set. If it's owned by a Kusi, then I'll go ahead and I'll pay him for it.
So we want to see good. So I asked them, can I taste something? They're usually good, but steal from them.
Yeah. So Gufa, Amar Shmuel Dina Machusadina. Says earlier Dina Machusadina. Sama Rava Teda the Katli Dikal Gashri Gishri Bavdina Lalai. You should know why, because they go ahead, they take people's trees, they cut them down, they make it to bridges, and people cross the bridges. So obviously you wouldn't be able to go ahead and use the public works and all that if that the Malchus wasn't allowed to go ahead and take us, everything would be stolen. So maybe it's the people at Yeush Minayu. Marayu. So perhaps the owners would have had Yesh. So he says, Ila Dina Machusa Dina. I understand. Why would there be Yesh? Why would the Yesh be effective? Yesh only goes from one rishus to the other. But if they take my tree and use it as a bridge, right, or my land, so it didn't change rishus. Yesh only works when it's taken from one rishus to another rishus, and the owner had over here, maybe not. So unless Yesh wouldn't really work in regards to that, so it should be Dina Machusa Dina. It says, I understand, but the guys don't listen to the Malchus anyways, right? Malchus Amar Zila Vikatli Mikol Bagvi, right? Go ahead, every estate, go ahead and take 2 trees from every valley for a person. So therefore, everyone pays their fair share in building the bridge. However, and the collectors who work for the city, they're going to get their logs. Right? They go ahead and they just, they take from one. So they're not exactly following the Malchus. Right? The shluch of the Malchus, and then we say, no, the shlichim of the king like the king. And therefore, they're not going to really go ahead and be matriach and go, into all the each valley and go ahead and accept trees there. But these people really cause themselves their own loss because really they can go ahead and get reimbursed from everybody else who didn't have to go ahead and give a tree or 2 from their valley, but they're doing so they're at loss. They go ahead and collect. Now we'll see a couple of different halachas. So Amar Rava, so says Rava, Saman the Mishnach bebe dari para means the Malka, right? The person goes ahead and he's part of, let's say, a group of people, right? They all store their food together. If he's like the last one to take his food out, and all of a sudden they come to take the taxes, he pays the tax on behalf of everybody, and it collects from the others. By the way, when they came to collect taxes, you guys already took your grains out, 9 grams back, so I had to pay on behalf of all of you. Now you guys got to reimburse me because they took 80% of my stuff, even though it's supposed to be a 5% for all of us. Just they needed to collect for me on behalf of you guys. Bahani, Mili, Shutva. This is only when they were partners. Aval, Barise, but the person they took from a sharecropper, then Risase who to come off. Then they're taking from the Aris, who's not a landowner, and therefore it's not his to go ahead. They're not supposed to be collected from him. So that which they collect from him is not really on behalf of the others. So therefore it's really stealing from him, and he can't necessarily the Malchus, the tax collectors, right? In other words, because really they pay a land tax, and a sharecropper doesn't pay a land tax. I'm just, I just work the field. Also, a person who lives in one town, right? They need to go ahead and collect money. So if the town goes ahead and collects money from that one person, he can go ahead and collect to the others who didn't go ahead and pay the taxes in order basically to be whole. So everyone pays the fair amount. It's only talking about either the land tax or the individual tax, the head tax of this year. But if it's, let's say, last year's, they can't go ahead and collect for me, because take for me if they didn't collect from you last year, and I just, and so I can't come to you and you go say, hey, you didn't pay last year, but I paid for you for last year. Right, so you're man, you can say, no. Last year was last year. They didn't collect for me. I don't know why you're getting my business for this year from last year, so take a hike. You can't go ahead and take from me. But if it was for this year's, you go, I had to pay for your tax this year, then I can collect it from you. Right. But not for last year. Exactly. So so also people go ahead and they put out another halacha when it comes to living right together. When the person goes ahead, he fertilizes his fields, close. It's also to go ahead and basically purchase out from that person, because the person who goes ahead and puts it so close, oftentimes it takes other people's animals, right? So therefore, my time because it might be very likely the people from their town, their animals are mixed up with them. However, if he goes ahead and works outside, then it's much to go ahead and purchase them. And if owners were chasing animals, then that it'll be usher to go ahead and purchase for them. So Machas Rav Vitema Rav Huna, this leak in the Eli and Nafti. This is when you go up there as Israel, when you go down, right? You go up there, so go out above it when you go back. So Hi Bar Yisrael, the other Sadusa Lakusi, a Jewish person who has some sort of a testimony for a kusi, and to claim, right? In other words, he's the one. He has testimony that could help a kusi, but the kusi never approached him and say, "Hey, can you help me testify against that Jew who owes me money. This is who the Kusi is. The Oslan, he went on his own. The Kusi, and then this Jew went ahead and went to a Kusi court in order to go ahead and testify al Yisrael against the Jew. Right? We go ahead and we put him chayrim, right? Because the courts of the Kusi, the big difference is they accept the testimony of one person. Jewish courts, even if you took it to a Jewish court, he's only one person. One person can't do anything. He's only testimony of one. Right? It's 8, so it's nothing. But if you go to a non-Jewish court, it's effective. So therefore, we put him in chayrim, especially because he wasn't, summoned to that court.
And they should testify.
So let's do it, right? So my time, what's the reason? Because he's the one. He's actually going ahead and taking money out of the Khan, right? Because it's one person. You don't go do it. I've I'll trade low, but if it's 2 people, and then 2 people went to the Kusi court, it would have been the same way the Jewish court and the Kusi court would have been a difference. The Magista. Only we're talking about when it's the regular local courts, which basically allow one, but the big governmental, the federal courts, then then when it was one person testifies, they don't listen to one person, but they make the other person make a shvua, just like a Jewish court. And Rashi, and furthermore, when we were by the yeshiva Rav Huna, so what about a person who's basically everyone knows and will listen to like 2 people in the Goyish courts? So do they go ahead and is that considered to be like 2 people? Let's do it, and therefore you should not go ahead and testify as a single in front of the other courts. Or maybe that since he's right, even though he's one person and you listen to him, but he can't avoid it because he's he's a local celebrity, right? He's a chashuv person. So the Gemara does not give a teretz. All right, we'll stop here. And Mr. Shem, tomorrow or I'll be here.
Are you going to be in the front?